Human interrupts alien girl's sacred chant, but human hears the chant shift to his rhythm. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character. The wind slipped through the broken archways of the Valaris 9 ruins like a quiet breath, cold enough to sting Ethan Rowe's cheeks as he stepped inside the ancient hall. His boots crunched lightly over dust that glittered under his flashlight beam. The air vibrated, soft at first, then rising into a layered hum, like several voices overlapping in perfect harmony. Ethan paused, frowning at his scanner. The display flickered, numbers jittering nonsense. Great, he muttered under his breath. Another temperamental reading. He tapped the side of the device, but the vibration only deepened, passing through the floor and up his legs in a steady pulse, almost like a heartbeat. He followed the resonance deeper into the chamber until the light caught movement. A figure kneeling beneath a column of pale light. Cerulean skin, hair drifting like violet smoke, hands pressed together as if cradling something invisible. She was singing, though the word felt too small for what filled the room. Her voice wrapped around the stones, warm and cold at once, echoing in harmonics that made Ethan's chest tighten in awe. He took an involuntary step closer. That single sound, his boots scuffing against the stone, clipped the end of her chant. The entire room stuttered. The harmonics fell out of sync, slipping into an uneven wobble. The girl's head snapped toward him, her eyes reflecting the column of light like twin prisms. Ethan raised both hands instinctively. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. His voice bounced off the walls, and the walls answered. The lingering resonance bent, shifting softly in pitch, falling into rhythm with the cadence of his words. Ethan froze. So did she. Her brows drew together, confusion overtaking the irritation on her face. She whispered something in her language, and the stones answered again, sinking faintly with her tone before drifting back toward Ethan's rhythm, as if the hall itself was listening to him first. Ethan's heartbeat thudded faster, and the resonance followed that too, echoing with a faint, warm thrum. That shouldn't happen, she murmured, rising slowly to her feet. Her voice trembled just enough for him to notice. Ethan kept still, careful not to startle her. Look, I'm just here for survey readings. I didn't know anyone was doing something important. She stepped closer into the edge of his light. No anger now, just wary curiosity, like she was studying something impossible. The column of light behind her flickered at the edges, pulsing gently in sync with Ethan's breathing. She glanced back at it, then at him. Your rhythm, she said softly, almost to herself. The chant reacts to it. Ethan swallowed, unsure if he should apologize again or stay quiet to avoid triggering another shift. The hall made the decision for him. The floor gave a faint, low hum aligned perfectly with the pattern of his pulse. Her breath caught, and for the first time, Ethan felt the ruins weren't echoing him. They were answering him. For a moment, Ethan thought the air itself was holding its breath. The soft pulse beneath his feet steadied into something gentle, almost curious, as if the entire chamber was leaning closer to understand him. Arivel's violet-tinged eyes stayed fixed on him, watching the subtle rise and fall of his chest like it held some secret she had been waiting her whole life to witness. She stepped closer, her movements deliberate, the kind of caution someone uses in a place where every sound matters. Do not speak yet, she said quietly. Her voice shimmered against the stone, and the stone answered. The echo came a second later, but softer this time, fading into Ethan's natural rhythm instead of overtaking it. Arivel placed her palm near the surface of a carved pillar. The markings glowed faintly under her touch, only to brighten again when Ethan exhaled. The glow matched the length of his breath almost perfectly. Her fingers trembled, and Ethan realized she was not afraid of him but of what the ruins were doing. This hall is older than my ancestors, she whispered. It has never responded to an outsider. Your people do not even share our resonance paths. Ethan tried to keep his voice low, careful not to trigger another wave. Maybe it is just reacting to sound in general. She shook her head, the motion sending a soft ripple through her hair. If it reacted to sound, it would follow me. But it follows you. She paused as if listening to something he could not hear. Even your heartbeat. Ethan's scanner gave a tiny chirp on his belt. He almost jumped. The resonance faltered for a blink, wobbling like a candle touched by wind. Arivel's gaze snapped to the device. What is that? Just a field scanner, Ethan replied. He tapped it gently, and the harmonic pulse shifted again, leaning toward the soft tap like it was trying to match the pattern. He felt a strange weight settle in his chest, the kind that comes when something way above your pay grade has just chosen to involve you. Okay, he murmured, that is not normal. Arivel walked around him slowly, not touching him, but observing from different angles, as if trying to understand how he was altering the space. Your rhythm is irregular, she finally said. Most species hold steady internal cycles. But yours, they move, they adapt, they shift without pattern. Humans call that improvising, Ethan said with a faint smile. It is not always a good thing. The hall disagreed. A gentle shimmer rolled across the floor stones, sinking almost playfully with the change in his tone. Ethan felt the vibration as a soft warmth through his boots. Arivel's expression softened with a mixture of awe and something like recognition. You do not force the chant, she said. You invite it. She moved a little closer to the column of light she had been chanting beneath. The beam flickered softly. May I ask something? Ethan nodded. She gestured toward the glowing center of the chamber. Will you try to speak again? Gently, just as yourself. Ethan took a slow breath. The warmth of the chamber met him halfway. What do you want me to say? The chamber leaned inward with him, drawn by tone rather than meaning. He spoke 3 simple words. I am here. The stones glowed brighter. The air hummed. The chamber answered with a single, steady pulse perfectly aligned to his voice. Arivel exhaled, her posture easing for the first time since he had seen her. The hall has accepted you, she said. And I do not know what that means. Ethan swallowed, the sound echoing faintly around them. The ruins echoed it back. Quiet and warm, like a heartbeat shared between them. The warm pulse drifting through the chamber steadied into something calm, almost like a quiet breath that matched Ethan's own. Arivel circled the edge of the glowing floor, her fingers gliding just above the carved symbols as if she could feel the resonance rising through the air itself. Every time Ethan shifted his weight, the light beneath him responded with faint ripples, echoing across the stone like small waves. Arivel finally stopped a few feet from him, studying the glow that trailed softly after his movements. The chant is choosing you, she said, her voice low but steady. It never bends for a single voice, and it has never followed someone from another world. Ethan tried to process that, but it felt too big to grab hold of. Maybe the ruins are malfunctioning, he offered, though even as he said it, the chamber gently brushed the edges of his words with its own hum, like it disagreed. Arivel's expression did not change. This place does not malfunction. It is older than our calendars. It reacts only to intention. She stepped closer, careful not to cross into the circle of light surrounding him. What were you thinking when you spoke earlier? Ethan shrugged, his voice quiet. Just that I was here. That I did not want to disturb anything. The chamber pulsed again, the glow brightening as if savoring the honesty. Arivel watched closely, eyes narrowing with a mix of curiosity and something gentler. You speak without forcing. Most who enter this hall try to command it or demand something from it. You did neither. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly more aware of the echo of his own breath bouncing off the stone. I did not know there were rules. There are, she replied. But you are following them anyway. She glanced toward the far wall where a cracked panel of ancient crystal reflected the moving light. The chant is a bridge. It listens to the inner rhythm of the one who sings it. She looked back at him. Yours is different. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Different in a good way or a bad way. Arivel hesitated, her gaze drifting over the soft glow that followed the pattern of his heartbeat. Different in a way I cannot explain. She moved toward a secondary pillar carved with thin, spiraling lines. When she placed her hand against it, the markings responded faintly, but the resonance did not rise to meet her. Instead, it drifted back toward Ethan, seeking him. She let her hand drop slowly. It is ignoring me. I doubt that, Ethan said, but even he could see the truth in the way the chamber leaned toward his presence. Arivel approached him again, stopping close enough that the light brushed against her feet. May I ask something? Ethan nodded. Do humans always change their rhythm? Ethan blinked. Change it how? It is never the same twice, she said. When you first entered, your rhythm was cautious. When you apologized, it softened. When you wondered if you were making a mistake, it shifted again. And now, she paused, listening to the chamber respond to the calm resting in his chest. Now it is steady. It is not common for your kind to be steady in sacred places. Ethan let out a slow breath. The glow warmed again, following. I guess I am just trying to be respectful. Arivel lifted her gaze to him, her expression unreadable. Then the hall hears that. Ethan looked around the ruins, watching the soft light swirl in time with his pulse, a rhythm he had never paid attention to in his everyday life. Now the whole room seemed to understand it better than he did. Arivel folded her hands gently in front of her. The chant has accepted you, Ethan Rowe, whether we want it to or not. The hall answered her words with a single, soft pulse that felt like agreement. The chamber settled into a calm glow, as if the stones were waiting for Ethan to make the next move. Arivel walked along the curved wall, her fingertips tracing the ancient carvings that shimmered in response to his presence rather than hers. The light followed her hand for only a moment before drifting back toward Ethan, pulled by the steady rhythm in his chest. She paused, studying the way the glow gathered around him like a quiet tide. There is something I must try, she said softly. Ethan nodded, unsure but willing. The air in the hall felt gentle now, warm enough that he could feel it through the fabric of his sleeves. Arivel stepped to the center of the room and lowered herself into the kneeling position he had interrupted earlier. Her movements were slow and deliberate, almost ceremonial. This is where the chant begins, she explained. Every note has a purpose. Every breath sets a path. Ethan watched as she placed her palms against the smooth stone. The carvings brightened beneath her touch, but the harmonics did not rise. Not fully, not the way they had when he spoke. She inhaled deeply and released a soft thread of sound, gentle and steady, a tone that vibrated like a distant bell. The hall responded with a faint shimmer, but the resonance wavered after only a heartbeat. Arivel let the sound fade. She looked at Ethan. Step closer. Ethan approached the circle of light cautiously. The moment his boot crossed into the edge of the glow, the hall warmed. The light expanded a few inches as if welcoming him. Arivel's eyes widened, though she kept her composure. Good. Now say something. Anything. Ethan hesitated. Like what? The hall reacted instantly, echoing the shape of his question with a gentle harmonic swell. Arivel let out a slow breath. Just as I thought. She motioned for him to stand where she had been kneeling. Sit here. Ethan lowered himself to the stone, feeling it vibrate softly under his palms. The warmth pulsed in steady intervals, syncing with his breath. Arivel positioned herself a few feet away, watching him with a careful focus. The chant is not sung to the hall, she said. The hall sings back. It always has, but it has chosen your rhythm to follow. Ethan glanced around at the glowing symbols. Why me? Arivel shook her head. I cannot know. Perhaps your rhythm is unpredictable enough to open the pathways. Or perhaps it is simply honest. She gestured for him to breathe slowly. Let it hear you. Ethan closed his eyes and breathed in. The chamber brightened. He exhaled. The harmonics deepened and spread outward, filling the hall with a warmth he could feel across his forearms and shoulders. He opened his eyes to find Arivel staring at him, not with fear, but with a quiet wonder. You are doing it, she whispered. Ethan felt his pulse steady, and the glow steadied with it. I am not doing anything. Exactly, she said. You are not forcing it. The hall trusts what you offer without trying. She stepped closer to the edge of the circle, the light brushing against her feet like a tide. Ethan Rowe, the ruins of Valaris respond to intention. And your intention, even now, is simply to listen. The chamber pulsed once more, warm and gentle, as if agreeing. The soft glow beneath Ethan's palms dimmed to a quiet shimmer, as if the chamber itself had settled into a thoughtful silence. Arivel remained near the edge of the light, her posture still but her eyes alive with calculation, wonder, and something gentler that flickered every time the stone pulse matched Ethan's breathing. The hall is listening, she murmured. But you must understand something. It never listens without purpose. Ethan glanced up at her. So what is it trying to do? She shook her head slowly. We only ever learn that when it chooses to show us. She stepped closer, letting the glow brush over her toes. The chamber brightened at the contact, but only faintly, like a greeting given out of politeness rather than interest. When I trained for the chant, she continued, my instructors told me the resonance reveals the truth of who you are. It does not care about your origin or your history. It cares about your inner alignment. Ethan let out a slow breath, and the glow pulsed with him. Alignment? I am not sure I have much of that. Arivel's lips curved slightly. Perhaps you have more than you think. She lowered herself to the stone across from him, sitting just outside the brightest part of the glow. The space between them hummed softly, like the air had woven a thread connecting the two rhythms. Close your eyes, she said. Ethan hesitated. What for? To keep you from overthinking, she answered simply. He obeyed, letting his eyelids fall. The darkness inside the chamber felt deep but warm, not empty. His breathing steadied. The floor vibrated in response, rising gently through his hands and legs. Arivel began to hum, not the full chant, but a single tone, delicate as a breeze moving across glass. The sound wrapped around him, brushing the edges of his awareness with a calm, quiet warmth. Ethan felt the resonance shift. The chamber did not imitate her tone. Instead, it mirrored the way his breath changed because of her tone. She stopped humming. Did you feel that? Ethan opened his eyes slowly. I felt something. I do not know how to describe it. That is the hall adjusting to you, she said. It is testing how stable your rhythm remains when influenced. Influenced how? Arivel tilted her head. By someone else's presence. Ethan's brow lifted slightly. Meaning you. Meaning anything that changes your inner state. She clarified, though her expression suggested she was studying him as much as the chamber was. She motioned toward a set of stone panels arranged in a pattern like overlapping waves. Touch the center one. Ethan reached out and pressed his fingertips to the panel's smooth surface. A warm vibration climbed up his arm, and the carvings lit up in a soft amber glow. Arivel inhaled sharply. It recognizes you. Ethan briefly met her eyes. Is that good? It is unprecedented, she said honestly. The chamber responded with another pulse, warmer this time, almost encouraging. Arivel rose carefully and moved to stand behind Ethan, just outside the brightest part of the glow. The chant tests connection, she said. Not through power or force, but through intention. If you let it, it will show you what it sees in you. Ethan's voice lowered. And if I do not like what it sees? Arivel stepped around him, her expression steady and reassuring. The hall only reflects truth, and truth does not harm. The chamber pulsed again, gentle and slow, as if inviting him deeper into its resonance. Ethan exhaled, and the glow followed, waiting for his next breath. The chamber shifted as if adjusting its posture, the glow gathering itself into a soft circle that seemed to breathe with Ethan. He felt the warmth settle around him, not heavy, but deliberate, like the ruins were preparing for something they had not attempted in a very long time. Arivel watched him closely, her eyes reflecting the slow pulses of light across the floor. The hall is guiding you toward the next step, she said. This is where most initiates struggle. Ethan let out a quiet breath, and the glow followed it with delicate precision. I am not exactly trained for alien rituals. Perhaps that is why it listens, she replied. She folded her hands, her tone calm, but steady. The chant does not want perfection. It wants sincerity. Ethan shifted his weight, palms resting lightly on the stone. The floor hummed under his touch, warm enough to feel even through the fabric of his gloves. He spoke softly, not sure who he was addressing. What does it want me to do? The chamber answered with a faint lift in the glow, a rising pulse that matched the quickening of his heartbeat. Arivel stepped forward, stopping just outside the brightest section of the circle. The hall is aligning with your rhythm, but it wants to know if you can align with something outside yourself. Ethan frowned slightly, meaning. Arivel raised her hand and pressed her palm to a nearby pillar. The carvings lit gently, but nowhere near as bright as they had under his touch moments ago. Meaning you must match my rhythm, she said. Not by force. Not by imitation. By intention. Ethan blinked. I do not even know how to hear your rhythm. Arivel gave a small nod, understanding his hesitation. She moved closer to him and lowered herself to the floor, sitting across the circle from where he knelt. The glow separated them like a quiet boundary, yet the harmonics braided softly between them. Close your eyes, she instructed, and listen with something other than your ears. Ethan obeyed, inhaling deeply, letting the warmth of the chamber settle around him. Arivel released a soft hum, gentle and even, the kind of tone that felt like it had been carried by the wind rather than made by a voice. It vibrated through the stones, curling around him in thin, warm threads. Ethan felt his breath shift without thinking. The chamber noticed. The glow swelled, bright and smooth, following his change in rhythm. Arivel continued the soft hum. Ethan let it guide the length of his exhale. A calm warmth rippled across the floor, building until the harmonics matched them both with startling clarity. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. The glow was no longer centered solely around him. It had expanded, stretching toward Arivel until it wrapped the two of them in one shared resonance. Arivel's expression softened. You did it, she said. You aligned with me. Ethan looked at the glowing stone between them. I just try to be present. That is all the chant ever asks, she replied. She lifted her hand, letting it hover over the stone. The markings lit brighter, not because of her touch, but because their shared rhythm was steady and clear. The chamber responded with a warm, rising tone, one that felt like acknowledgement. Arivel's voice lowered into something almost reverent. Ethan Rowe, the hall recognizes the connection you offered freely. The glow pulsed. Once more, slow and deep, as if sealing the moment in stone. The glow surrounding Ethan and Arivel held steady for several long moments, warm and alive, as if the ancient hall had wrapped the two of them into a single breath. Ethan felt the vibration rise through his palms, gentle but insistent, like the ruins were nudging him towards something he had not yet understood. Arivel watched the light with a focus that bordered on reverence, her cerulean skin reflecting the soft gold drifting across the stone. The hall is preparing to reveal its intention, she said quietly. But it needs one more affirmation. Ethan exhaled slowly. The glow followed the rhythm of his breath in smooth waves. What kind of affirmation? Arivel shifted closer to the boundary of the light. The soft shimmer brushed her knees but refused to brighten until Ethan breathed again. It needs to know if the connection is temporary, she explained, or if you can hold your rhythm even when circumstances shift. Ethan's eyebrows drew together slightly. You mean under pressure? Under uncertainty, she corrected gently. Most lose their rhythm when they doubt themselves. She stepped back into the dimmer part of the hall and motioned for him to stand. Rise with the pulse. Ethan placed both hands flat on the stone and pushed himself upright. The glow climbed with him as though the chamber was lifting him. The floor hummed, not loud, but steady enough that Ethan could feel it in his ribs. Arivel stood a few feet away, watching him with clear, attentive eyes. Now walk, she instructed softly. Ethan took a step. The chamber dimmed for a moment, startled by the change, then brightened as his foot settled. He took another step, and the glow adjusted again, learning his movement. Arivel observed closely. Good. Keep your breathing steady. The hall will follow if your intention does not waver. Ethan focused on his breath, on keeping his steps measured and calm. The ruins responded with a warm ripple of light that traveled ahead of him, guiding his path. When he reached the far side of the circle, he stopped and turned to her. That was easier than I expected. Arivel's gaze softened. Only because you are not trying to impress it. Most initiates try to control the hall, and the hall closes itself in response. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. I am just trying not to mess anything up. And that sincerity is what the hall accepts. The glow pulsed once, as if agreeing. Arivel took a slow breath, then stepped directly into the center of the light with him. The glow expanded, wrapping around them both. Ethan felt the vibration shift, becoming deeper and more layered. The air warmed, carrying a faint scent like sun-warmed stone after a desert rain. Arivel's voice lowered, a mix of awe and caution. This is the moment of truth. The hall will show you what it sees in your rhythm. It will show you your inner alignment. Ethan swallowed, the sound echoing softly. And what if I am not ready to see it? Arivel met his gaze, her expression steady and calm. Truth does not wait for readiness. It simply appears. The chamber inhaled with them, the glow rising in a slow, sweeping pulse that filled the entire hall, as if the ancient ruins were opening their eyes for the first time in centuries. The hall's glow rose slowly, gathering into long sweeping arcs that lifted toward the ceiling like strands of living light. Ethan stood motionless at the center, aware of every breath, every shift of warmth along the stone beneath his boots. Arivel remained beside him, though even she looked humbled by the sight unfolding. The harmonics deepened, becoming layered tones that felt less like sound and more like a presence. The air thickened with a warm hum that brushed Ethan's shoulders and settled around his chest. Arivel's voice lowered to a whisper. The hall is revealing the hidden path. It only does this when a rhythm aligns with an older calling. Ethan swallowed lightly. Older than what? Older than my people, she said. A soft ring echoed through the chamber, rippling outward from Ethan's heartbeat rather than returning to it. The light stretched upward, forming a tall, shimmering silhouette that flickered like a figure made from the glow itself. Ethan blinked, unsure if it was an illusion. The shape leaned forward in a slow arc, as if listening. Arivel watched the glowing outline with wide, careful eyes. It is showing you something, she said. Or perhaps showing itself to you. As Ethan held his breath, the figure dissolved into dozens of drifting threads that wrapped around the two of them before spiraling toward the floor. The glow shifted, tracing a pattern on the stone. Ethan looked down and saw symbols forming beneath his feet, one by one, bright and clean like they had been freshly carved, from light rather than stone. Arivel, he said softly, what is happening? She stepped closer, examining the symbols without touching them. This is the path of convergence. It appears only in stories. It shows when two rhythms become one. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. The glow responded instantly, brightening with his rising heartbeat. Arivel's expression softened, almost tender, though she kept her tone steady. The hall is acknowledging the resonance between us. Ethan frowned slightly. But I did not do anything special. You listened, she said simply. Most try to take, or command, or reshape the chant to fit their will. You did none of that. You offered your rhythm without intention to control. The glow spread outward in a wide circle, touching the edges of the chamber. Dust lifted gently into the air, illuminated like tiny floating stars. Ethan felt warmth along his palms, a gentle vibration that rose through his arms and settled behind his sternum like a second heartbeat. Arivel watched his reaction carefully. Does it hurt? No, Ethan said quietly. It feels like recognition. The chamber pulsed, a long and steady tone that vibrated through the arches overhead. The warmth shifted into a soft pressure behind Ethan's ribs, not painful, not overwhelming, but undeniably present. The stone floor responded with a rising glow that pooled around Arivel's feet as well, drawing her into the same circle. She inhaled sharply but did not step back. Instead, she placed her hand lightly over her chest. It is reading my rhythm too. Ethan looked at her. Together? Yes, she answered. It is testing our alignment. The hall released a deeper harmonic, slow and deliberate, like the measured toll of a distant bell. And then the light swept upward in a final, rising wave that filled the chamber in a radiant bloom. Arivel's eyes widened. Ethan Rowe, she whispered. The hall has made its judgment. The glow dimmed to a gentle shimmer, waiting for them to understand the meaning it had revealed. The hall's final shimmer lingered like a quiet exhale, settling across the stones in a soft, steady glow. Ethan stood completely still, aware of the subtle warmth circling his chest, the strange second heartbeat fading into something calm and familiar. Arivel stepped forward, her cerulean skin reflecting the dim light, her expression shifting between awe and a quiet understanding. She crouched beside the symbols the chamber had carved from pure radiance. They were fading slowly, but their outline remained clear enough to read. It is not a judgment of worth, she said softly. It is a recognition of harmony. Ethan looked down at the symbols. Harmony between what? Arivel touched the edge of the glowing pattern. Between you and the chant. And between you and me. Ethan blinked. I do not understand. She rose to face him, hands loosely at her sides. Her voice stayed gentle. The path of convergence only appears when the hall senses alignment strong enough to reshape the chant's purpose. It means our rhythms do not conflict. They reinforce one another. Ethan let that sink in. The glow rippled lightly, as if the ruins themselves encouraged his understanding. So what does the hall expect from us? Arivel looked around the chamber, listening to the fading hum. Not obedience, she said. Not ritual. It wants intention. Shared intention. Ethan glanced at the ancient carvings surrounding them, each one glowing faintly in time with his heartbeat. Shared for what? Arivel stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. To carry the chant forward. To preserve it. To guide its resonance into the future. Ethan stared at her, startled. I am not from your world. That is exactly why the hall chose you, she said. She lifted her hand, not touching him, but letting it hover near his shoulder. My people follow the chant because we were taught to. You followed it simply because you listened. The hall pulsed faintly, warm as a reassuring breath. Ethan felt the weight of the moment settle around him like a soft mantle, not heavy, but honest. Arivel, he said quietly, what happens now? She turned her gaze toward the fading symbols on the floor. Now we honor what the hall revealed. She moved to the center of the chamber and extended her hand toward him, not as an instruction, but as an invitation. The glow beneath her feet brightened. Ethan stepped forward slowly, letting the warmth guide him. When his hand hovered near hers, the chamber responded with a long, low harmonic that filled the entire hall. Arivel inhaled softly. The chant has accepted us as one rhythm. Ethan let his hand rest gently in hers. The glow rose around them like a tide, quiet and golden, wrapping the two of them in the final breath of the ancient ruins' long-sleeping resonance. No words passed between them. There was no need. The silence that followed was full, not empty, carrying the unmistakable truth the hall had shown. For the first time in centuries, the chant had chosen to begin again. And it began with a human rhythm.